Alright, so this is going to be our first attempt at trying to see just how painful it's going to be to try and run two colors alongside Tron mana base. I think this is the one that a lot of people are talking about the most. Izzet Post is one of the strongest control decks in the current metagame, and so when that's removed, you're going to not only have an opening for new control decks to show, but some people are wondering whether or not you could still find the same kind of effectiveness out of an Izzet control deck when you run a Tron mana base as opposed to 8 post. So we're going to see how this turns out. Opening hand's pretty good. 3 Tron pieces, unfortunately they are all the same. Doesn't really gain us much value, but we do have a Prism and a blue mana source. That's great, especially when we have 2 compulsive researches. That means we can access both colors as early as turn 2. And we have a great draw spell coming up on turn 3. So that's going to give us great access to all of our instant, our 1 casting cost red spells, and do draw into Urza's Mind, which is great. That's piece number 2 of our Tron, and then Expedition Map is essentially going to be piece number 3, and this is going to work out really great in our favor. So playing Slivers, and again, a bit of an unusual choice starting to run, I guess, Gemihide Sliver in some of these decks. We are going to take this chance to use Compulsive Research. We could spend this entire turn just to use Expedition Map and find that last piece. I kind of wanted to see what else we can come up with. You know, this deck is going to have a lot of potential to draw, especially, second Compulsive Research. All these extra pieces, having 2 of the same Urza land is great. Being at number 3, it's just not necessarily as great, so being able to throw one of these away to a Compulsive Research is not such a big deal. Do find another Mountain. That's our other red source, and now all of a sudden we have easy access to both of those colors. Another Expedition Map. Again, I did decide that getting rid of that extra piece is not going to be so terrible. Wall's going to be good at least until the Lords get those Slivers up to 4 attack. Serrated Arrows is also going to help us kind of take out some of those early guys. So opponent puts down his first Sliver Lord, going to swing through on the Gemihide, getting me down to 18 here. Draw into a Crusher, which is great. It's kind of our big win condition here. Going to simply just tap out and play arrows. I was doing a bit of math, seeing, okay, I could crack map this turn, but I can only play 1 land, and I'm not going to have any mana really to do anything else. I could, of course, have played a map off the island. It doesn't matter what I cost, but if I throw out the Expedition Map and crack it using what was in play, and use my land drop to put down Tower, which is the last piece I need, it would tap for 3. I could siphon it through Prism and use another Compulsive Research. I decided I wanted to play it a little bit more defensive, having just played against Slivers before in some of these other Tron matches, and I know the speed that it can bring, and I wanted to be able to at least attempt to start shutting down Slivers. It'll take me 2 turns to kill a 2/2 Lord with arrows. As long as he doesn't play another one, that's an okay scenario for me. I can reduce the Lord here by 1, and then on my turn just kill it off entirely. Again, as long as he is not drawing to another Lord, and it seems that he did not. So does cast Hive Stirrings. That's going to get him a couple more Slivers, but I'm going to be able to simply use the arrows here and finish off that Predatory Sliver. Now I'm finally going to crack this, find our last piece, and put it into play. It's going to provide us with 5 mana. We can siphon this through the Prism. What we're getting back here off the Pneumatic Wall is going to be Compulsive Research, which is good, not great. We do have easy things to throw away in the Mountain. Another one in hand. We're going to be able to dig pretty far through our deck, which is really awesome. And again, going to be able to kill off the Predatory Sliver, supposedly, with the arrows. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is a misplay. I was waiting to see if he was going to play another Lord. I didn't just right away kill the Predatory Sliver. I'm not sure it matters. Either way, I'm sure someone will tell me otherwise. So he passes through, he's going to attack, and getting that wall out there, I did create for myself another blocker. Can stop the 2 damage there, and he does not have an answer for that dying Lord, and so he's going to be down to just 1/1 Slivers, and all of a sudden not nearly so frightening. We're not going to be able to get our life back up in the same way that Izzet Post could, but being at 12 here is not so terrible. We can tap out, you see, and get this Olamog's Crusher down. And with that power plant, we're going to be able to cast at least one of these other Compulsive Researches. Yes, we did finally draw into a 3rd there. and get that going on. So now he's going to have some interesting choices. Thankfully for him, he does run these Gemhide Slivers. That gives him an opportunity to sacrifice lands to the Crusher, and it does seem that he is a little flooded. Having 6 lands as slivers is not great. So he can easily sacrifice 2 of those to the Crushers and chump block a sliver or 2. Especially because these Gemhides are going to provide him with mana. He doesn't actually need physical lands to do so. But at this point in time, he is cowed enough to sit back. Going to start by lightning bolting one of his slivers. Again, I think when it comes to the Annihilator ability, he's easily going to want to sacrifice off lands, but I wanted as few permanents on his battlefield as I could, just to reduce his options for what he can sacrifice to that Annihilator ability. I could have even gone as far as using the Serrated Arrows. I think maybe actually that would have been a decent play to get rid of that Gemhide Sliver. Then all of a sudden that makes his lands, his physical lands, a little bit more valuable. So he does get a chump block, but we do have a 4th power plant, plenty of options here. Going to use another compulsive research. Again, finding plenty of lands, getting rid of these mountains. Hitting 2 is great, but we do have a prism, so we only need really 1 physical mountain. Putting down Tower because it is, again, our big mana producer, and going to have plenty of mana to get that 2nd Crusher, and that's going to be pretty much game over, as we've discussed. Once you have 2 in play, that sacrificing 4 permanents every turn is not a place you want to be in, and with our floated mana, we're just going to use Preordain. Reveal Expedition map there, and a Mulldrifter. The map goes to the bottom. We'll take the Mulldrifter. Plenty of options here to refill our hand. And being slivers, he really has no option to killing off a Crusher other than a whole bunch of pumped up slivers blocking it. And he really doesn't have those right now. Even whatever spells he has, he's got 1 card in hand. He's in a really bad spot, and this is actually just game over pretty much at this point. So taking off yet another sliver there. Again, I think maybe the better play would have been to use the Serrated Arrows to try and remove that. Gonna swing with those. He's going to take that extra 16 damage. And at this point in time, I decided I want to try and dig and see if we could find a Ghostly Flicker so I could save my Serrated Arrows that I just used the last counter. Get the Mulldrifter here, put down an island, which is kind of a bad spot to be in because we didn't find it off the Seagate Oracle, and I guess if I was being smarter, I would have dug with research because it digs 1 deeper. But, you know, we can draw more here, but if we do find that Ghostly Flicker, we're now out of blue mana sources to actually use it on the arrows, so that's just dead anyways. But it's kind of a wasted turn at this point in time. He's down to 3 permanents. Even if he plays a sliver, he's sacrificing everything he has, and he's going to have to take this damage. So that was kind of a rolling, crushing game, mostly driven by the fact, I'm not going to hide anything about this, mostly driven by the fact that my opponent's draw was not great. He was a little bit land flooded for slivers, and that's kind of why Gemhide has lost some value in the deck these days. You know, sure, it's great, but I'm guessing he didn't cut down his mana base to account for the fact that the Gemhide Sliver can play stuff. So the fact that he drew so many lands and so few lords, he only drew 1 lord in that whole thing, really gave us an edge there and put us out on top. So jumping into our second IzzetTron game. Opening hand is decent. We have 2 lands available to us, which is a good start. They are actually both colors, and that's also a really good start, especially when we're running so many of those single drops that are colored. Map gives us opportunity early on to find pieces of our Tron deck and accelerate our mana. Also, a Seagate Oracle, if we can find that 3rd land by turn 3, we can make plays there. So I decided I wanted to start out with the map, as opposed to leaving a mountain available for Lightning Bolt. Draw a Flame Slash here. Some great options because the Archer is going to tell us that it is either Stompy or Elves. Either way, these burn spells are going to come very much in handy, as well as the Serrated Arrows early on. And so we wanted to end of turn crack Expedition map here to find a land number 3, just to ensure that we could get this Oracle into play. But you can't pass up an opportunity like this to get rid of Rancor. Once Rancor hits the battlefield, it's very hard to get rid of. You kill the creature, it comes back. You kill the enchantment, it comes back. So the best time to attack Rancor is this point in time where he is attempting to attach it to his creature. So in response to that, we are going to Lightning Bolt it. Now it has no target, it's going to just go to the graveyard, and that's going to benefit us greatly. And then down comes Nettle Sentinel. Something that, again, is going to easily die to a Flame Slash, something we're going to easily keep up on. We do manage to top deck into a land number 3, which is fantastic. That's right where we want to be. We can put out the Seagate Oracle, which has 3 toughness and will be big enough to chump block the Sentinel, given no additional pump spells. And we reveal Urza's Tower and Condescend. The Condescend is an okay play at this point in the game, but since we're running a little behind on land, I decided to take the tower. It will give us arrows if we're fighting elves that can easily target things down. Puts us that much closer to hitting that turn 5 Muldrifter and refilling our hand, which is going to be even more important. So when he attacks out here, I decided I was going to chance that he was bluffing. Unfortunately for me, he does have Gather Courage and would be able to kill off my Oracle. Definitely a little bit upset about that, but we're going to see a Wild Mongrel come down. Now at this point in time, kind of an interesting situation here. He has Wild Mongrel, which is tough to deal with usually with red, because your removal as red is going to be burn damage. Most of the time, things like Lightning Bolt, it has to have 3 toughness or less, or Flame Slash, we're looking at 4 toughness or less. What Wild Mongrel does is cause all kinds of issues for you because of the fact that you can discard cards and put that toughness out of range of your burn spell. So what I decided I wanted to do here is I'm going to attempt to Flame Slash the Wild Mongrel. If he decides to pump it up, the best he can do without a mutagenic growth is put it up to 4/4, and that is going to still kill it, and it would require him to discard both cards in his hand. So I think it's a great opportunity to get rid of the Mongrel while I had that safe opportunity. And I have mana left over. I'm going to simply just crack that Expedition map, get our last Tron piece, and put it into play. And this will allow us to easily play Muldrifter on the next turn and refill our hand. So attacking through now is going to get down a Pit Skulk and another Pit Skulk. And because he did damage off the Sentinel, they will be full power there, and another Scattershot Archer. So this is going to be a little bit difficult, but once we have our Tron mana base online, we have plenty of mana here. We can cast the Muldrifter and the Serrated Arrows. It will only provide us with the reduction of 1 damage. It will not kill any of these particular creatures off for 2 turns, but we're going to go with that anyways. We have a chump blocker here in the Drifter, and it's going to allow us to draw into Rolling Thunder, which is going to be our board white strategy. Now, this particular deck usually will find the Rolling Thunder as its answer for, a win condition. You can do 20 damage to your opponent, easy to generate off of this Tron mana base. But what we're going to do instead is use it to wipe the board. We have plenty of options thanks to the walls to get that Rolling Thunder back later on, and it's not something that he's going to be able to stop as Stompy. So we can count on using this right now as a board wipe strategy as opposed to trying to use it simply as a win condition. We also drew into a Capsize there, which is great. If we can find another blue mana source, and we do already have one in hand, then we'll be able to buy that back and start returning creatures. Might give us some advantage over these Pit Skulks that may not be able to come back for their full power later on. He also leaves the Archer open here, so he has the ability to kill off the Muldrifter. So my debate here was I decided to block. Perhaps a bit of a misplay on my part. I was looking at this scenario wrong, I believe. My options here are I can trade these blocks right now. The Muldrifter and the Pit Skulk will die, and use the arrow to reduce the attack power on one of these other attacking creatures. Or I could reduce the attack power on the Skulk, which would leave the Muldrifter alive unless the Archer taps. And I don't think I was really considering this. I think it's a worse idea to just make this -1 because, I don't know, I don't see what is really gained from it. The Archer taps, and that's not a big win for me. Maybe ultimately it doesn't matter because he decides not to tap it. But we have plenty of mana available here. Going to crack out this Expedition map, find the second red that we need to play Rolling Thunder, and it turns out to be just enough mana available for us to kill off a bunch of these guys here. So we can kill off all of those 2 toughness creatures he had. All he has left is Young Wolf. On his turn, we can use Serrated Arrows to reduce it to 1 and bring it back so it can't attack. But we're going to attack through right here. He decides to just concede. Kind of the biggest issue he has. I mean, we're in a really good space here. Serrated arrows can kill it off. We have capsize to bounce it. But where we really benefit in this particular point in the game is the fact that he's got no cards in hand. So he is in top deck mode. If he finds a land, if he finds a pump spell, that doesn't really help him out because we have pretty well locked down his board state. And we're going to very slowly start beating him down with Maul Drifter. So that's that game. I think next on our docket is going to be the Dimir Post.